Morning Roll Call. What life feels like in a women's prison. Subscribe for more real crime stories. Like, share, and join the discussion below. The sound of a loud bang reverberated through the halls. A metal door slamming shut echoed ominously as inmates formed lines for roll call. Tension crackled in the air, a daily reminder of the strict order amid the chaos of life behind bars. This particular morning, however, would shatter the routine as one inmate suddenly collapsed on the cold concrete floor, gasping for breath. Panicked guards rushed to her side, unleashing a wave of confusion and fear among the women. Unbeknownst to them, this was just the beginning of a harrowing day that would expose a darker truth lurking within the prison walls. As medics arrived, whispers of contaminated food spread through the crowd. Would this single incident spark something much larger? A crisis that would galvanize the entire facility and expose deep-rooted issues? To fully grasp the weight of that fateful morning, we need to backtrack. This is the story of Lee County Jail, a women's prison in Alabama, overshadowed by allegations of neglect and mismanagement. With overcrowding rampant and insufficient staffing, the facility struggled to manage the diverse population of inmates, many of whom were battling substance abuse issues or mental health crises. Interviews with former inmates paint a picture of life inside these walls, where each morning began with the same monotonous roll call, a system designed to maintain order yet often failing to account for the human element. Tensions had been brewing for weeks due to poor food quality and inconsistent healthcare. No one knew that the day would culminate in chaos, a warning sign ignored for far too long. The chapter ends with a palpable sense of dread, hinting at the brewing storm as officers received troubling reports about food deliveries. Would today see the eruption of anger from the inmates? The moments leading up to the roll call were filled with routine, guards performing inspections, inmates preparing for a day that felt never-ending. The kitchen operation, however, revealed hidden issues. With inadequate supplies and poor oversight, meals arrived contaminated and unappetizing. Pasta full of mold, stale bread, and unidentifiable protein. The situation became dire when officers discovered a hidden stash of food taken from the kitchen by inmates desperate to supplement their diets. Through extensive first-hand testimonies, the chapter reveals how hunger drove inmates to desperate measures. Guards began to crack down, further isolating the residents. As tensions heightened, a new officer received a tip about incoming contraband that would shatter perceptions of safety within the facility. The mood was thick with unease. As the chapter draws to a close, a guard walks into a restricted area only to uncover something shocking: bags of contraband hidden behind the supply shelves. What implications would this discovery have for the safety and integrity of the prison? The discovery of contraband triggered a series of lockdowns that sent shockwaves throughout the prison. As officers ran searches throughout the day, the psychology of fear settled heavily among the inmates. Many women began to act defensively, leading to alliances forming and tensions rising as trust dissolved. Inmate narratives provide a raw look at emotional turmoil during lockdowns, where screams and whispers filled the halls. As days progressed, anger boiled over. Isolation and uncertainty created a powder keg. The food situation worsened, with rumors of spoiled supplies becoming rampant. Tensions finally reached a boiling point when an altercation ignited in the yard, leading to an all-out brawl as inmates fought for control of food supplies. A guard gets injured in the fray, leading to further retaliation from the staff. The chapter ends with a cliffhanger. As the smoke of chaos clears, the alarm blares, and more officers flood the yard. Had the prison staff underestimated the inmates' frustration and aggression? With outbreaks of violence following the lockdown, the facility's administration scrambled to regain control. This chapter highlights the inner workings of the prison, showcasing management's attempts to maintain order amid the rising chaos. Interviews reveal a split among the guards. Some wanted to show compassion while others leaned heavily into strict enforcement. Amid the turmoil, whispers of corruption started to surface, hinting at unmonitored dealings between guards and inmates. Some officers were allegedly trading favors for contraband, a phenomenon that exacerbated existing tensions. The consequences were immediate. More lockdowns were enforced, and food supplies dwindled even further. With hunger gnawing at them and distrust growing, inmates banded together, discussing ways to push for better treatment and accountability. The chapter culminates in an explosive moment as a group of inmates stages a protest outside the cafeteria, demanding better living conditions. Voices rise in unison, and the chapter unfolds with a striking question: would they finally be heard, or would the system crush their attempts at mobilization? As the protest garnered media attention, the prison administration found itself under scrutiny like never before. This chapter dives deeper into the psychological aspects of incarceration, stories of resilience and survival among the women. For many, this situation ignited a spark of rebellion in a system that had kept them silent. Inmate testimonials reveal their struggles and desires for change, exposing the harsh realities of life inside a women's prison, where abuse, neglect, and trauma often intersect. Mental health crises became paramount, creating a desperate need for support that only exacerbated with increased tension. As the protest continued, a key figure among the inmates emerged, an inspiring leader who had navigated the system and reached out for support. Her story illuminated the struggles faced by women in prison and hinted at a larger movement brewing within the facility. Chapter 6 ends with a shocking moment as the guards' retaliation against the protesters escalates. Would this courageous stand lead to more severe consequences, or could it be a turning point in their fight for justice? The aftermath of the protest triggered a series of retaliatory actions from the guards, sparking fear and uncertainty among the inmates. This chapter shifts focus to the growing divide within the prison, the us versus them mentality. Some guards became increasingly aggressive, employing harsh tactics to assert their control. Through powerful interviews, we hear how this retaliation affected the women physically and emotionally. Many experienced harsh punishments, and solitary confinement became a weapon used against those who dared to challenge authority. As the conditions within the prison spiraled, the women banded together to resist, forming support groups and alliances to combat the oppressive environment. They organized discussions about their rights, leading to critical awareness among the women about the importance of advocacy and solidarity. The climax of this chapter reveals new details about the corruption allegations swirling around the administration. An anonymous tip speaks of illegal activities within the guard ranks, leading to internal investigations that could expose the prison's troubling culture. With everything hanging in the balance, this chapter concludes with the harrowing realization that the impending investigation could flip their world upside down. Would it bring justice or further devastation? With internal investigations looming, the atmosphere inside the prison was electric and fraught with fear. This chapter explores the growing sense of unease among inmates and staff alike. Many feared losing their jobs or facing retaliation if they cooperated, while inmates contemplated what the exposure of corruption might bring. Behind the scenes, several inmates took it upon themselves to gather evidence against corrupt guards. They documented transactions, recording conversations in a bid to bring the truth to light. The struggle became a collective effort, uniting women who once sat in isolation, sharing stories and gathering strength. However, the prison administration caught wind of their efforts and increased security. Tensions escalated again as suspicions rose among both guards and inmates, creating an environment where trust was nearly non-existent. The chapter ends with a cliffhanger. During one of their secret meetings, a guard walks in unexpectedly. Are they about to be caught, or could this be an opportunity to expose the inner workings of a corrupt system? With the investigation pressing down on both sides, the stakes reached an all-time high. This chapter focuses on the aftermath of the confrontation with the guard. Thankfully, they were able to maintain their composure, leading to a tense but deep conversation. Discontent flowed between the lines as the guard, who was sympathetic to their plight, agreed to informally gather intel about the corrupt officers. The tension within the facility continued to bubble, with guards feeling the weight of potential exposure. Corruption became a buzzword, and whispers of a major shakeup coursed through the corridors. The community among the inmates solidified further as they began to strategize ways to bring their stories to the public. Their courage inspired acts of defiance, writing letters, speaking secretly with reporters, and contacting advocacy groups focusing on women in prison. Yet, as the chapter progresses, a shockingly sudden lockdown unfolds, initiated by a tip-off that tensions had reached a point worthy of a severe reaction. The harshness of the system exposed again. Could all their efforts to create change be crushed under the weight of this crackdown? In the final chapter, the climactic moments unfold. The lockdown proved devastating. The facility buzzed with suspicion and dread, but the inmates remained resilient. They utilized the existing communication network to send their messages far beyond prison walls, bringing attention to their struggles and solidarity efforts. As outside support grew, pressure mounted on the administration. The resulting public scrutiny forced an emergency meeting, prompting discussions about conditions affecting the women in prison. While the administration attempted to quell the unrest, the prison's cracks became increasingly visible. Media outlets clamored for interviews, amplifying the voices of those once silenced. Ultimately, this chapter culminates in a collective standing together, a moment of unified strength against the oppressive structures in place. As the promise of change loomed, fear still lingered about retaliation from those enforcing the status quo. The final cliffhanger asks viewers to reflect. Would the power of their voices leading to reform resonate beyond the walls of Lee County Jail? Or would it merely fade, lost in the annals of a neglectful system? This documentary-style narrative weaves together the stories of resilience and rebellion among women in prison, highlighting their struggles for dignity amidst a flawed justice system. Through powerful storytelling, the chapters illustrate the complexities of life behind bars while advocating for necessary change.